live at Thermo Ceramics and Thermal Management Expo. So I think it's my first time at this show. This is manufacturing processes. So it's a smaller section on thermal management and a larger section on ceramics. It's some of the names and companies. And so let's walk around and see what's going on. And so I didn't prepare that much. I just signed up. I looked a little bit online to see what it's about, but I didn't have enough time to look in depth on what's going on. But basic ceramics. This is manufacturing processes focusing on thermodynamics and ceramics. Ceramics probably referring to certain type of material used in manufacturing processes. So I've been doing a lot of work and focus on the philosophy of science, the history of science, and I've talked quite a bit about entropy, thermodynamics in terms of the mechanical equivalent of heat in the conservation of energy. So the 6 types of energy that could be converted into each other. One of them is heat, and that's the study of thermodynamics. So anyone in Metro Detroit, conference goes on today and tomorrow. It's free to attend. We see a whole bunch of panels, leading experts talking about various, mostly material science.
What you should use to avoid such mistakes there is just an oil
about measurement,
which has no fillers.
So pretty interesting. Hey Dave, been a long time.
Oh, I haven't seen you in quite a while.
Yeah, they stopped those ESD tours.
Yeah, they're going to start up in a few weeks. Going to be something at Expo Ford Estate on Lake St. Clair
I'll have to look
by Vernier 8 Mile.
I left my membership lapsed, so I'll look into that.
Well, I renewed it, and happened I couldn't go to some of the other ones last year. Had breakdowns with my car, actually.
How your horses?
Don't have horses anymore. Quite a few years ago, had gave them away and sold some off, and they died.
Well, God bless, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Have a good show. Maybe I'll catch you up on some of these.
There's a lot of show expos coming up here.
Yeah, I signed up,
And
Huntington.
Kobo.
Yeah. You guys have live streaming them, doing little rambles, walking around, filming them.
Oh, good.
I'll see you around. God bless, good to see you. Okay, well, fellow engineers used to go on all the Engineering Society of Detroit tours. Dave, retired engineer, interesting man. Hadn't seen him in a while. They mostly canceled the, with COVID, even before COVID-19, they stopped doing the Engineering Society of Detroit tours. But I'd taken pictures, went every month for years, like 30, 40 of them. I let my Engineering Society of Detroit membership lapse, but might renew it. So I'll do a little quick walkthrough, a little bit of a ramble. Then I'll probably go table by table, maybe speak to a few people, and you'll collect the reading material. So a little bit curious, interested in what's going on, because Amy, good to see you. Yeah, God bless. Thanks for coming in. These engineering conferences are pretty important. The future, technological future, math and science, and Metro Detroit. So ceramics in thermal management in relationship to manufacturing processes. So obviously heat is a big byproduct of manufacturing processes. So there's things like energy recapture for buildings, in terms like the heat could be recaptured and used for heating, or in some cases to produce energy. But presumably this is focusing mostly on material sciences, that the heat produced in terms of whether it could damage the materials and the processes. So I mentioned during the Automotive Testing Expo that there's various sensors and heat, vibration, electricity, magnetism, wear from water, multiple, really any of the elements could damage the manufacturing process. Everything has to be accounted for. And so you have your specifications at what point the material or component will be damaged by the elements. And then also, even if it's within the specifications, how long that it could be expected to last in terms of regular wear and tear. So you're like within the automobile, so you have like vibration, could be mixers, various elements of the manufacturing processes. So ceramics being a specific kind of material, the thermodynamics referring to the heat produced in the process in relation to the material science, and at what point, at what heat control temperature does the process have to be kept within for the optimal production of the material. So you see quite a few ceramics. So they got busted too. So honestly, I'm not even sure ceramics in terms of what ceramics is made of. If ceramics could be synthetic, if it's an oil derivative like foam, or if it's like concrete, if it's made of like silica or various. So unfortunately, I didn't do enough preparation, and I don't even know a precise definition of ceramics. But if you think like clay pottery, maybe that classifies within ceramics. And so there's two different components. There's the ceramics of the manufacturing equipment, and here, so you have like aluminum powder or semiconductors, crystal, ceramics like 3D printer. Here's with the ceramics and some of the lecture classes that Elliot could see about this. So
all of manufacturing
ceramics starting the path forward, keynote address, General Electric, Mono Haran, Chief Technologist, Ceramic Composites and Coatings of General Electric. And you got Oak Ridge Laboratory, Sierra, some out to the west we got Elliott, so
making the part itself, so the shroud and the other parts.
yes, I don't
And then we have a joint venture.
we had a definition of ceramics there in the chat. But yes, you have two aspects of the ceramics. You have the ceramics in terms of the manufacturing equipment, and then in the manufacturing material. So many of these companies make manufacturing equipment and sell the manufacturing equipment to manufacturers. Here you have a lot of material suppliers. There you have like aluminum and silicon. So I think last year I went to the silicon conference, but here you have like aluminum oxide, silicon oxide, and you could purchase it in bulk, in powder form, pellet form for manufacturing. So you have multiple elements. You have the material dealers, and here, even including like metals, and they have some of it on display, where a lot of times will be in powder or pellet form. So you can see the powder pellet form of the various materials that you could purchase, presumably in bulk. I was actually reading an article about Dnipro in Ukraine, that's now controlled by Russia, is one of the large suppliers of neon, and neon is an important material in semiconductors. But you can see the various ceramic to basic materials. It could even be metals. So I guess ceramics could include metals. So you have the related, pure material dealers that, sapphire, aluminum, zirconium, high purity powders, quartz, nitride. You probably have mining companies that mine these minerals all over the world. Many of them, I didn't look enough into it. I'll gather the reading material, and that's why I came to learn. So it's my first time at the show. So you see that I used to trade commodities. So presumably most of these things are traded on the open commodities market. Vast majority of them. Not all of them would be openly traded on the commodities exchange. Some of them might not be, but the vast majority. And some of these are processed material. So everything like aluminum might be traded on the commodities exchange. However, aluminum oxide might not be. And so these are processed for manufacturing processes. Depending on your manufacturing process, you would probably buy the material already processed in a way you'll go straight into manufacturing with it. So that's the first element of the Ceramics Expo. You have the material miners, dealers, and processors that process the material into whatever form that would be likely to be sold to the company that would go directly into the manufacturing process. Some companies, they might purchase bulk on processed material and process itself. So if anyone watched last year the Silica conference, so at the Silica conference, here too you see some of them. You have the shakers and the separators. So this would be for the material processing. That sometimes you could separate the materials just through shaking them, or sometimes they need to be chemically processed, and they might have to be ground, or there's multiple different methods to process materials. So here you have a vibrator that presumably has a method to separate materials, that like a sifter, and you could run certain types of material through the vibrator sifter, and it would separate the material. Some of them might need to be chemically processed, and there's all sorts of manufacturing processes in order to separate materials, to process them, to turn them from one thing into another. Okay, so besides that, let's say you have the manufacturing equipment. So you have the processing equipment that would be used in order to process the equipment, sift the equipment, to turn the material into the form that you're going to use in the eventual manufacturing process. And so when you actually do the manufacturing, it will have to be processed to the point where you could just feed it into your manufacturing process, whatever machinery or however you have it set up. So most manufacturers are going to purchase the material at that end. Although if you're a large manufacturer or budget-wise, you could consider purchasing the equipment and doing that in-house. And that's, so a lot of the companies that sell that equipment or have the technology or engineering firms that will help you set up these manufacturing processes are here. You have the trades groups of the various professions, a lot of educational magazines. So, Duvid, you're like a kid in a candy store with all these, reading material, all these magazines I never even heard of. So you think like all these various specialty niche engineering processes, manufacturing groups. There's probably like 20 different magazines I never even heard of before that have unique processes. So, so Duvid, the kid in the candy store, looking forward to gathering the reading material. And it looks like next year it's going to be here too. So they have a thermal expo also in Germany. Maybe they have one in Far East Asia. Hey, Shalom.
How are you?
Hey, great to see the Kelton.
Corey Leeson.
From out of town?
Cleveland.
Okay, great. I'm streaming here. I do commentary on civil engineer.
Oh, okay.
I don't actually work in the property management, but I work on that too. Are you a vendor or?
No, I'm an unemployed ceramic engineer, so I'm looking for networking opportunity.
Well, yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
Are you staying overnight? Or you're here for the hotel?
Yeah, no, I'm staying at the Mordecai Smile.
You know the name. I live in South.
He lives in the park.
Yeah. Have a great day.
Thank you. Amen. You
So
too.
check out my YouTube page. I'm Duvid with 4 O's. Property management. I went to university in Michigan. They wanted to do something later. Industrial property management. I'm still learning. So I have a YouTube channel and I train almost all the time. This is actually third generation part of the people are used to third generation part of the to a point that Expo 7 was he's a supporter, he's pretty secular, and he's actually like the plants where they have like all the animal shows and a lot of the Republican, Michigan Republican conference and he spoke here visiting the county and all of them for Detroit. He's got voted well, I've never met him. Have a great day.
Amen. Thank you. You too. Much love for Robin.
Thank you. Okay, so Baruch Hashem met a fellow Jew, and so it's from Cleveland, and I guess unfortunately he's out of work, but a good place to come to find work. And I used to come to these shows, looking for kind of like employment opportunities, and a lot of them are in sales. He's actually an engineer. Some of them are remote, so the employment in these fields is very limited, unfortunately, and there's global competition because almost all these corporations are global. They'll have a part here. They might do like R&D. They might have a plant, but you'll hear there's probably very little. All these companies are probably not based here. They're coming here because of the automotive industry, and so I was just talking about the engineering processes related to the engineering processes related to the mining and refinement of materials. So once the material is refined, you turn it into a widget. And so, for Metro Detroit, here, most of the, some of the bigger places might refine the materials here in Metro Detroit, and have in-house or certain level of processing. If it's like silica or aluminum, they might buy the aluminum in bulk and then have multiple materials. But unlikely, very likely they get almost all of the manufacturing facilities in Metro Detroit order the material ready to be put straight into the manufacturing processes. But a few of them might do a little bit of refinement of them in-house. You can see some of the rock mining forms. My dad likes collecting these. The minerals, that's like the form of iron oxide or carbonate. But in terms of why this conference here in Metro Detroit, it's because the auto industry, and eventually all of these are going to be turned into widgets. And the various widgets that go all over the car, and that's why it's also related to the thermal conference, because the automobile, combustion engine, or even the new electric cars. So heat is also, one of the biggest byproducts of the automobile, regardless of combustion or electricity. And I don't even know offhand whether electric cars or heat engines produce more heat, or it could be that even electric vehicles in some aspects produce as much or more heat than combustion engines. But the materials for an automobile, there's two main considerations. One is weight, because the conversion of heat energy to mechanical energy, the more weight, the more energy it takes. So the lighter weight the material, the less energy it will take to propel the vehicle. And then your wear and tear with vibration, like the automotive testing Expo, because the vehicle's moving and there's a lot of vibration, and the various elements that it has to stand up against. And the strongest is heat. And also, like Michigan, you have your materials that have a wide temperature, so it could be below freezing. So most automobiles have to be able to go down to even below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. Definitely below freezing. Most cars you will be outdoors and below freezing for a few months of the year. And when the engine is on, depending on where the car is, could have to resist hundreds of degrees. So, that's the importance of ceramics in thermal management to the auto industry. So all of these widgets, I don't see too much with like engines, but like I've said thousands of times on these streams, manufacturing is like automotive or bust. Because automotive globally is almost half of all of manufacture, and so if you could get your part or materials into the automobile, that's where you're going to have the most commercial success. So that's what they refer to as like automotive or bust in any adjunct manufacturing business. So in terms of that, just so just to finish off, and then I'll probably go table to table and gather some of the reading material. But so you have the components being made, the thermal requirements for the actual manufacturing process, and the thermal requirements for the material once they've been produced. And like an automobile, if the automobile has a useful life of 10 years, most of the ceramic components, they want to last the whole life cycle of the car. In certain parts like the brakes, the tires, have to be replaced, but most of the components of the car are built to last the whole life cycle of the car. And so that's like Automotive Testing Expo. But say like, okay, you have electricity, the outside weather from below freezing temperatures, and vibration. Also, a lot of them might get wet. They might get wet by water, or they might it might be some sort of chemical interference. They might get wet with oil or salt. Here in Michigan, salt the road. So almost all of the components in a car might have the danger of salt, which is corrosive. So that's basically the ceramics industry. So thanks for tuning in. You have some cool stuff, and I guess you could 3D print ceramics. I mean, ceramics is a general term for a whole bunch of processes and materials. And I said, like, I did not in-depth do research before the conference. So I'm just saying, general engineering knowledge that I know. And right after I sign off, I'm going to go table to table and collect reading material. And the show is tomorrow also. So the show's today and tomorrow. Anyone in Metro Detroit could sign up and come down. And they have the educational conference where they're also you have seminars leading General Electric, 3M, International. I was making a point, like, you have a lot of Korean companies here now. Like, over the last few years, you would have seen a lot more Chinese, and there's still a decent amount of Chinese. Like President Biden with the Korean foreign minister, and the bye-bye, the American Pie, and even just addressed the joint session of Congress. But global affairs, the war in Russia and Ukraine, and China has caused a little bit of a diplomatic rift with China, although China is still extremely important to the global supply chain. So you still have some Chinese companies. However, diplomatically, there's been a move to Korea. So you have a lot of Korean companies, and a lot of the Korean companies are really in direct partnership with China. So, Korea has an interesting economy also. That's just one interesting note that, so a few weeks ago I did the Society of Automotive Engineering conference, and there was a lot of Korean companies, very few Chinese companies, as were before the pandemic. These shows were like almost 20% Chinese. And especially in a global supply chain, accurately, China should be more represented than it is. So you could see a little level of, international politics and diplomacy in the fallout of, God forbid, what's happening with international diplomacy and, an attempt to isolate China, or even a division in the global supply chain. And David was like, I'm not sure we're winning this. In many ways we're losing the global competitive edge. Like King Loren just won the chess championship. So you have to work with the people and but I wouldn't some insight from going to these shows that in terms of the battle with China, I think we're losing, actually. God forbid, many aspects we're losing the battle. And, so you can see the lack of Chinese companies here and the pivot to Korean companies. And assuming that the Korean companies are going to side with us against China is unlikely. That, most of these Korean companies also have partnerships, direct relationships with China. So just a little, something to think about in terms of the news and having insight, because this is an international conference. Almost all of these companies are global conglomerates. Almost all of these companies, to some extent work together and necessitate relationships with China. And Russia has some manufacturing, like Ukraine and Russia are not major manufacturing places. So just the final thought. So stupid, I'm going to sign off here. Thanks for tuning in. Thursday we'll have Introduction to Jewish Prayers Part 3 with Michael. And next week is the Business Expo in Detroit. And the Automate conference that I streamed last year should be pretty cool. That you have a lot of robotics, the latest robotics gadgets on display is the week after. So that should be exciting. And I think there's the steel conference, and then like the foam conference will be coming up. So it's conference season, it's expo season. So might even be like an average of one stream a week from local expos. I missed the Rapid TCT. It was in Chicago last year. That was a really awesome conference. The Rapid TCT conference in Huntington in Detroit this year. It was at McCormick's in Chicago, and I could have driven there, but I didn't. But that was a really cool conference. So but the Automate should be an awesome conference. You'll see all the latest robotics on display, and that's a full week conference in Detroit in 2 weeks. So with that, God bless. Have a great week. Signing off.
Yeah.